Chapter 2. I arrived 10 minutes before the doors opened, standing on the footpath with a sudden, jarring sense of déjà vu. It felt like I was stepping back in time. The game store looked almost exactly the way I remembered it. When I was a kid, I'd been here almost every other weekend, drifting through the aisles while my allowance slowly disappeared. Back then, the building had felt enormous, almost magical. Now it was just a small store squashed between newer buildings, a little dimmer and less vibrant than it had seemed through a kid's eyes. The metal shutter was still down, and a sign in the window read, "You shall not pass," which earned a smirk from me. I stood there with my hands in my pockets, trying to not look too creepy loitering outside a toy store, waiting for someone to flip that plastic card and grant me passage. Usually my mornings were a relentless march of must-dos. For the last decade, I'd been the anchor at home, the responsible dad who kept the engine running. My life had become a perpetual checklist: grocery run before the store closed, checking the gutters, tracking the mortgage, making sure the car didn't make that weird clicking sound anymore. Every task was about maintenance, never about discovery. I'd become very good at being Lukas the adult, watching my calories, tracking my caffeine, keeping the lawn cut just right. Somewhere along the way, play had quietly been traded for productivity. But standing here, something loosened. Suddenly, I was 20 again, waiting in a midnight line for the newest PlayStation game to drop. Back then, the air was thick with cheap energy drinks and that buzzing electricity you only get when a group of excited and rowdy teens got together. We weren't just buying discs, we were buying the promise of an adventure. I caught my reflection in the dark glass. The gray in my hair was there, and the sensible jacket, too, but I was grinning like an idiot, and there was a spark in my eyes I hadn't seen in years. This wasn't just about picking up a game, it was about letting myself be excited about something again. No spreadsheets, no responsibilities, just a new world waiting on the other side of that door. And maybe, if I were lucky, it could do something else too. Kurt and I used to lose entire weekends playing games, laughing until our lungs hurt, arguing about strategies, staying up far too late. Somewhere along the way, life had pulled us onto different paths. We had stopped playing together. Maybe this could bring us back onto the same team. Click. The game store door unlocked. The shutter rattled upward, and the door swung open, releasing a rush of cool air that smelled like new electronics and plastic. The guy on the other side froze when he saw me. He was young, maybe 21, with a mop of dark hair and a t-shirt covered in pixel art. He blinked, briefly confused that a middle-aged man was standing so close to the door. "Oh," he said, blinking. "Yeah, hi. We're open. Sorry, I didn't realize anyone was waiting." "Don't panic," I said, trying to ease the tension. "I'm not here to shut you down for excessive fun." I cringed. It was a terrible dad joke. He blinked, then laughed anyway, stepping back to let me in. "What can I do for you, Mr.?" the kid asked, already retreating to his post behind the counter, his little command center. "I'm picking up a game I ordered online for Lukas Barrett." "Sure thing. Let me just find the file." He didn't look up, his fingers dancing across the mechanical keyboard with a rhythmic click-clack. "What's the title?" "Cursed Kingdoms." The clicking stopped instantly. He froze, his expression shifting from bored employee to fellow conspirator. "No way," he said, a grin breaking across his face. "You're getting into Cursed? Man, I love that game. I play a lot myself. Cursed is the best game on the market, has been for years. You're gonna have a blast." He turned back to the screen, his energy completely transformed. "All right, let's see what you got." He scrolled for a second, then stopped. He leaned in closer to the monitor, squinting at the order details. His eyebrows shot up toward his messy hairline, and he let out a long, slow whistle. Whoa, he breathed. You bought the full neural immersion rig. Man, those things are absolute beasts. Total immersion, like really real, you know? It's like stepping into the game. I've been saving up for one myself, but the price tag is, well, you know. Yes, I knew. It had been expensive. My bank account was still screaming at me. The clerk disappeared into the back and returned a moment later, arms wrapped around an oversized box he handled with surprising care, like it might bruise if he gripped it too tightly. It was all glossy white, wrapped in tight plastic, almost featureless, except for the logo, Cursed Kingdoms, Blood and Shadow. He eased it down softly on the counter between us. Then, like I'd triggered a dialogue option, the clerk straightened slightly and launched into the disclaimer, flat, automatic, and painfully rehearsed. This VR headset must be used in a safe, open environment. Make sure children and pets are not nearby, check that all equipment is properly attached, follow all usage guidelines, avoid prolonged continuous play, monitor for dizziness or discomfort, and... The words came out in one long breath, like something he was contractually obligated to say. He didn't even look at me, just powered through it out of habit, terms and conditions given a human voice, before trailing off, eyes drifting to the ceiling, as if waiting for permission to stop. I blinked, not knowing if that spiel was important, though I had a question burning in my mind that made the safety disclaimer feel less pressing.
I tried to find a playthrough guide online, I said, leaning against the counter, like an idiot's guide to Cursed Kingdoms. Do you have anything like that? The clerk, whose name tag read Evan, snorted. Yeah, don't bother. There's no walkthrough for this game. It's too huge and it changes on the fly. There's a massive AI running everything behind the scenes, shaping a unique experience for every player. Some people say it's biased toward certain players. It seems to make my experience harder for some reason, but yours will be completely different from mine. But what you do need to know is, it's all in the cards. Everything in this world, your skills, your weapons, your magic, it's all card-based. You find cards, you level them up, and you build a deck. Success isn't just about how fast you level, it's about how your cards work together. Plus, there's a real-world economy. You can play for free, but if you want to speed things up, people definitely spend money on cards and resources. Mostly it helps with leveling and convenience stuff, crafting materials, things like that. But the good gear? Evan shrugged. You still have to go out and get that yourself. Boss drops, dungeons, and rare events. No one's swiping a credit card and skipping the game. He leaned in a little closer and lowered his voice conspiratorially. Still, it goes both ways. You can sell materials and rare cards for real cash. I've made a few $100, he winked. Just don't ask me how. I thought of Kurt's paychecks. It was finally starting to make sense. Any tips for the early game? I asked. Evan grinned. Yeah, actually, the game starts you in 2 stages, the starter village called First Light and the starter zone called New Haven. The village is basically a personality test. There's no character creation screen in this game. Instead, it throws you straight into a village that's under siege. Fires everywhere, people screaming, monsters coming through the gates, and the game doesn't tell you what to do, it just watches what you do. Sounds lovely, I muttered. It's brilliant, he said. You can do anything. Grab a weapon and fight, run around helping the wounded, start hauling supplies, or just talk to the NPCs. Whatever feels natural. The system tracks your choices and builds your class, and even your race, around how you react. Some people have made all sorts of tutorials online about how to steer the system when you create your character. But honestly, they're mostly guesswork. Nothing's guaranteed. There are infinite possibilities, dozens of branching decisions, maybe 30 different races, hundreds of classes, and countless subtle variations you won't find on any guide. So just do you, man. He nudged the massive box a little closer to me, as if he'd already internally finished the sale.
After that, you get pushed into the nursery, a starter area called New Haven. That's basically a sandbox just for new players. No high-level players messing with you, no guild politics, none of the big world stuff yet. Just space to explore, find cards, gather resources, and figure the game out. Evan shrugged. Only real tip, grab everything you can. Tons of the stuff you find in the starter area sells really well once you leave. Sets you up nicely for the early game, you know? He tapped the top of the box. After that, you step out into one of the 3 main player cities. That's when the real game begins. Meeting other players, trading, rivalries, everything gets a lot more intense. I let out a small laugh and rubbed the back of my neck. Honestly, that sounds a little overwhelming. Evan just grinned like he'd heard that 100 times before. Yeah, it sounds huge when someone explains it, but once you're in there, it's different. Don't worry about what you're supposed to do. That's the whole point of the game. Just do what you want. Wander around, pick fights, chop trees, build something weird. Figure it out as you go. He shrugged. Trust me, man, it's fun. Actually, I said, I was hoping to end up in a specific place. My son is already playing and I want to join his faction, the Vanguard something. He says things are getting pretty rough for them right now. Evan's eyes sharpened. The Iron Vanguard? Yeah, they're big, strong, but they're on the ropes. Every day their defenses are starting to show cracks. All power leads to downfall. There it was again, the line from the game. Classic cursed. Any big guild rises, claws its way to the top, and then has to fight to hold that spot while the rest of the world circles, ready to tear off whatever they can. When they finally fall, it's going to be a feeding frenzy and a big payday for anyone smart enough to be in position. I wouldn't mind getting a piece myself. He leaned a little closer, voice dropping conspiratorially. Look, you should join my faction, the Ember Covenant. Early game buffs, extra resources, safe spots, and when the Vanguard go down, you can get a slice of the action. Trust me, it'll be worth your while. I cringed a little at that, unsure how to feel about him talking about profiting from my son's guild's collapse. I pushed on. Can I just click a button to join their faction? Evan shook his head, unfazed. Not until you clear the nursery at the very least. For now, all you can do is set yourself up. Gear, resources, learn the mechanics. Later, you'll actually be able to help the Vanguards. I nodded, letting that sink in. Okay, so if I wanted to steer my character creation to help the Vanguards, how do I do that? If they're in trouble, what can a new player even do? Evan's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper.
The Vanguard are pure shock troopers. Think of them like ancient Viking berserkers. All they want to do is push the front line, dominate the battlefield, and plant their banner on the highest hill. They're heavy hitters, the best in the game at taking ground. If you want to actually be useful to them, don't just be another sword. They have plenty of those. They're starving for logistics and support. That's their weak spot. He tapped the box between us again. When you're in the starter village, New Haven, don't just fight or hunt monsters. Head for the mine under the mountain. It's usually tucked near the edge of the village. The system will definitely assign you a support class there, and the deeper you go, the stronger that class will become. He held up a finger in warning. But listen, don't forget to fight sometimes. If you go full pacifist, the system will hand you a pacifist class. Sure, it comes with some great perks, but don't be fooled. They're slow to level, usually only shine in a party, and solo, not much fun. So yeah, make sure you hit something once in a while. Evan pushed the box across the counter toward me, already half turning like the sale was finished. When you finally drag yourself out of the starter zone and hit the first real player settlements, look me up. We'll run a few quests together. My tag's the Throb Goblin. I blinked. The name lodged in my brain like a bad song. I don't think I could forget that even if I tried, I said. He laughed, thinking he was hilarious. I scooped up the box and tucked it under my arm, giving Evan a final nod. Thanks, Evan. The shop bell chimed behind me as I stepped out onto the pavement. The air felt different, brighter, sharper, like someone had quietly turned up the saturation on the world while I'd been inside. Maybe it wasn't the world that had changed. Maybe it was the box tucked under my arm and the experience about to unfold. For years, excitement like this had been the kind of thing I'd put off. Too busy, too responsible, too practical. People passed by with groceries and hardware supplies, moving through the quiet march of everyday life. Meanwhile, I stood there holding the one thing I'd finally decided to stop denying myself. At the car, I cleared the passenger seat and eased the box down carefully, like it was a fragile passenger. I even caught myself pulling the seatbelt across it. Sliding into the driver's seat, I gripped the wheel as that old-school buzz of adrenaline started creeping in. Normally, a drive home after errands was just a countdown to the next chore. This time, the countdown wasn't to the next task. It was to the journey waiting for me.